Welcome, I am the Kaiju no Kami, and tonight we will be reviewing 1964's Mothra vs. Godzilla. There isn't too much history behind this movie to speak of. After the success of King Kong vs. Godzilla, Toho wanted to make another versus movie between the duo, but they were unable to do so, possibly due to contracts. As such, Toho turned to another successful monster for Godzilla to battle, Mothra. Not only does this movie pit up Toho's two biggest monsters at the time, but it also starts to create a shared universe between all of their kaiju films. This movie not only acts as a sequel to King Kong vs. Godzilla, but also to Mothra, and from this point forward, we will start to see many of Toho's standalone monsters cross over with each other. So let us dive down into the story of Mothra vs. Godzilla. The movie begins with a raging typhoon ravaging Karata Beach. The next day we see all of the water being flushed out of the beach and are introduced to two of our main characters, Ichiro Sakai and Junko Nakanishi. Junko is played by Yoriko Hiroshi, while Akira Takarado returns to play Sakai. They work for Maicho News and they are to report on the disaster that has occurred. While looking around for pictures to take, Junko finds a strange metallic object, and just as she has finally gotten her camera set up, Sakai picks it up to look at it. In the meantime, a giant egg has washed up in Nisui Beach and the villagers go out to retrieve it. Afterwards, we are introduced to Professor Mira, played by Mothra's Hiroshi Koizumi, who is currently trying to study the egg. He is being interviewed by Sakai and Junko when a man named Kumayama, played by Yoshifumi Tajima, comes over to introduce himself. He represents Happy Enterprises and they have just purchased the egg from the fishing village with plans to make an amusement park attraction. That night we see Mira is for some reason sharing a room with Sakai and Junko. They head to the lobby where they see Kumayama asking if another man is there. He heads upstairs to meet his partner in crime, Jiro Torahata, played by Kenji Sahara. While discussing the egg, two small girls appear before the greedy duo and beg them to return the egg to them. Unfortunately, all Torahata and Kumayama can see are dollar signs. They try to capture the twins, but they manage to escape. The twins ask Mira, Sakai, and Junko for help as the egg belongs to Mothra. The twins tell the trio that when the baby Mothra hatches from the egg, it will cause a massive amount of destruction before it heads back to Infant Island. We are then shown a scene of natives praying to Mothra, which seems very reminiscent of the natives on Faroe Island from the previous movie. Maybe they are related. Mira and gang ask Torahata and Kumayama to return the egg, but instead of doing so, they offer to buy the twin fairies. That night, the twins return to Infant Island in sadness, but thank the trio for their help nonetheless. Sakai decides to constantly write news stories describing the situation, but Happy Enterprises fights back by buying the public. The Happy Corporation would do no such thing. That was just slander that Sakai did. Thank you. Sakai decides to constantly write news stories describing the situation. He is ready to give up when his boss scolds him for thinking that way and calls him a loser. Suddenly, his boss gets a call that Kumayama has started heating up the egg in hopes that it will hatch. Mira calls for Junko and Sakai to come to his lab, and there he proceeds to wash off the radiation they may have acquired from the colorful rock they picked up earlier. Now, I am no expert when it comes to radiation, but I'm pretty sure the process is not as simple as that. In fact, this is how you properly scrub off radiation. Obviously it is true because James Bond does it this way. Yay!
He's reading 47.
All right then, put the man through.
He's now clocking 40.
It is steam bar.
Reading 38. 32. Down to 8.
Move the girl to stage 3.
Mira and his lab start testing Karata Beach for radiation when they are told to leave. Junko notices that the mud is moving and Godzilla emerges from the ground. He starts to destroy everything around him, and as you can see, once again his costume has changed. He still has the 3 toes from the last movie, and both the fangs and ears are still gone, but the suit looks a lot less rubbery and more like a monster. Unfortunately, the suit is not perfect as it looks like Godzilla's mouth is about to fly off. However, this actually was not done intentionally. During the scene where Godzilla attacks Nagoya, his falling into the castle was not planned. The suit actor had actually tripped, and when he crashed into the castle, he knocked the teeth on Godzilla loose. Eiji Tsuburaya loved the scene so much that he kept it in the movie and also decided to keep the way the head looked with the loose jaw for a little while. Hence why you see his snout just wobble around at times. The military is sent out while Sakai's boss asks Mira if he has any ideas as to how they could defeat Godzilla. Suddenly, one of their associates sits down and talks about how it is a shame they couldn't just ask Mothra to fight Godzilla. This gives them an idea, and Mira, Sakai, and Junko head to Infant Island. Now, I do actually also want to point out that there is a scene in the English version of this movie that is not present in the Japanese one, and it features the American Navy attacking Godzilla. It is a cool little scene that adds nothing to the movie, but it does give someone a bonus for watching the dub. Unfortunately, I feel that the effects in this scene are not the greatest, and that is probably why it was not used in the Japanese cut of the film. Nevertheless, it doesn't bring any harm to the film, and it does not halt the enjoyment of it. Anyway, Mira and gang arrive on Infant Island and find nothing but devastation around until they are greeted by the natives. The natives take them to their chief, who refuses to help them for their not returning Mothra's egg and for using what they call the Devil's Fire.
この島はいいとこだった。平和な緑の島だった。それを悪魔の火焚いたのは誰だ?
The twins start singing and Mira and gang meet with them and ask for help, but they too refuse. At least until the trio talk about how there are too many people to always agree and that they do wish for world peace. This lament causes Mothra to agree to help them with the last of her strength as she is about to die. The military plans on how they can defeat Godzilla and sets out to do it. The tanks in this movie are a massive improvement over those found in the last one. Here they actually look like tanks. Kumayama confronts and attacks Torihata for making him lose his money and is shot as he tries to steal Torihata's stash. Godzilla destroys the hotel before Torihata is able to escape. Aww. Godzilla then heads for the egg when Mothra arrives just in time to stop him from destroying it, and the two battle each other. Unfortunately, Mothra is really nothing more than an annoyance to Godzilla, and after a short fight, she is killed. Nevertheless, the technical aspects of this battle are truly magnificent. Yes, you can see the wires attached to Mothra at times, but the amount of work and attention to detail in this scene is phenomenal. That neck on Godzilla though, ouch! Godzilla heads out, ignoring the egg, as does the military. Night comes and the fairies say the egg is about to hatch. Another attack on Godzilla is attempted, but as we have seen previously, it is frivolous. Also, Godzilla seems to have gotten over his fear of electricity as he just walks through the high-tension wires as if they were nothing more than string. The next morning, the fairies are still singing. Seriously, were they singing all night? And the military thinks they can stop Godzilla by dropping bombs on his head this time. That neck. As people flee, it turns out that the teacher and her students are stuck on Iwa Island, which is exactly where Godzilla is headed. The egg starts to glow and two Mothra larvae hatch out of it and head towards Iwa Island to take on Godzilla. There they attack Godzilla by biting his tail and then spray him with a silky surprise. The children are rescued and Godzilla is defeated, crashing into the ocean trapped in the silk. The twins go home with the two Mothras and the day is saved. So there you have it. That is Mothra vs. Godzilla, and what a truly wonderful piece of cinematic history this is. The plot of the movie is pretty basic. It is about the greed of men and how it is affecting the environment, but sometimes simple works. This is definitely one of those cases. The acting is quite good and the characters are well thought out. Sure, it doesn't have a comedic relief character of awesomeness like the previous movie had with Tako, but it is interesting to see Kenji Sahara in a role that was opposite to his previous role. Akira Takarada being back brought a smile on my face, as for just being a lowly news reporter, he seems very complex when it comes to social issues. On the other hand, Junko felt like she was just there because Toho needed a female lead, as she didn't really do much. She was a likable character, but she did very little to stand out. At least she isn't a damsel in distress, but it seemed like the bulk of her personality came out when she was yelling at Sakai for not standing up for her when they first met Kumayama. As for Mira, he did his job, but like Junko, he didn't have any attributes that made him amazing. Finally, Kumayama was barely on screen, but his presence is quite known when he is there because Tajima was very effective in his performance. The effects are straight up fantastic, and despite some flaws I mentioned previously, this is truly a work of art. Tsuburaya was by far on his A game here, and I consider this to be the best of the Showa era. I love the detail in the industrial area, especially in the piping, that Godzilla wreaks havoc on when he first comes onto the scene. Akira Ifukube was by far on his A game in this movie, as his music is very engaging and keeps the viewer immersed. The Mothra song is very catchy. On the other hand, I do want to bring up a little bit of a controversy that apparently occurred on the set of filming this movie. Ifukube felt the battle on Iwa Island was far more intense without any music playing and left it unscored, while Ishiro Honda disagreed. As such, Honda took it to his own volition to insert one of the tracks from King Kong vs. Godzilla into that scene without his knowledge. In fact, Ifukube did not even know Honda had done that until the premiere of the movie. From what has been said, that is the only time Honda and Ifukube ever frowned upon each other. The monster suits are extremely well done. As I said before, there were some issues with the Godzilla suit with the mouth and then the odd scenes of his neck, but I cannot help but love this design. He just looks terrifying. The look in his eyes he gives just shows that he means business. The Imago Mothra design is such a gorgeous piece to behold as well. The fur on Mothra is incredible, but it is those massive wings that truly make her stand out. They are just impressive, and I can imagine the amount of work that went into making them flap. The larvae are nothing spectacular when you look at them, but they do their job effectively. Once again, that is all the time I have for in this episode. I will return next time with Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Bye.